Welcome back to another episode of Fast Casual Nation. As you guys know, we dive into I think some of the greatest stories in the area of fast casual development. My name is Paul Barron. I'm your host today. And of course, we get a lot of input from our listeners, our viewers on what's working out there for restaurant brands, especially in the fast casual space, obviously. And one of the things that we've identified is there are a handful of brands that have created this kind of omni-channel approach, somewhat diverse in terms of how they're reaching the market. And today I wanted to talk with Nick Stone, who is the founder and CEO of Bluestone Lane, who has done just that. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Thank you, Paul. Great to be back.
Yeah, great to have you. So we had you on Recover America on a panel, which was great. But I learned so much about Bluestone, I wanted to really dive into this topic of brand diversity and how companies are successfully executing on this. Talk to us a little bit about the different markets that you guys serve and how you do it through your different channels.
Sure. So Bluestone Lane is an Australian-inspired premium coffee and hospitality brand with over 50 locations in 8 markets. So we center the business around premium espresso coffee and healthy food, all made to order. We have a coffee shop model, which is really focused on a captive audience in office towers and mixed-use campuses, hotels. And then we have a cafe model, which is more like a daytime restaurant. We also have a product business, so a CPG business, where we sell coffee beans, coffee capsules, teas, tea powders through various channels, wholesale, on-premise, and also grocery. And we have a D2C business. We sell through our own organic e-commerce site, but also through third parties such as Amazon and Fresh Direct. So a number of different sort of revenue streams, and all have had different impacts because of COVID. Some have grown substantially and others have fallen substantially. So it's been a really interesting period. And we have had to make some rapid changes from what we were doing pre-COVID, which was very much driven through people coming to the store, ordering at the point of sale or dining in, and that has all changed transformatively.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go a little bit into the 2 of the channels you just mentioned. One is going direct to consumer. Are you guys handling fulfillment across that, or do you have a fulfillment company that you're working with to help implement that? What's the process for you operationally?
We do a lot of it ourselves because we're vertically integrated. We have our own roasteries. We roast our coffee and then we ship it directly from the roastery. But some of our other products are fulfilled by a third-party group. And then obviously when we sell through third-party digital marketplaces like Amazon, we're shipping the product in bulk to their warehouse and they're managing all distribution.
Yeah. Do you use for some of your products that are going into wholesale, are you guys using a co-packer, or how do you go about that, or is that also within your operation?
So for coffee, whole bean and ground coffee, we do it all ourselves. We have a full assembly line, but as it relates to capsules, we have a co-manufacturer that we've worked with. We just debuted our Nespresso compatible capsules, which are 100% both biodegradable and compostable, so heavily eco-friendly, which was really the main gate for us to invest into capsules. We were a big believer in offering a specialty, probably the first specialty 4th wave, 3rd wave coffee brand to produce a capsule of this quality that is eco-friendly. And we did that with a co-packer. So it's a balance, but certainly being integrated and having your own roastery and sourcing your own grain and managing all your own packing and filling, we see significant enhanced margins and economics from doing so. So we're lucky that we were able to make that substantial investment because we had this 50 plus store fleet, and then to dovetail into online made natural sense.
Yeah. Yeah. In terms of the roasting facility there, I mean, I've kind of followed and worked with Starbucks even a couple of decades ago when they were first really kind of ramping up. And roasteries were a big hurdle that they had to overcome strategically from a geographical standpoint. How are you guys going about that? Do you have a centralized roaster, or are you starting to move the roasteries out into some of your expanded markets?
It's a great question. Right now, we're roasting exclusively in New York City, and we're shipping to the West Coast. We're lucky that the coffee can travel and land on the West Coast within 3 days, and
Yeah.
because of the way that the bag technology is, and it can really limit the amount of oxidization that takes place, so that the bean is preserved. And then there's other ways in which you can further ensure that you have longer shelf life or a longer life. It's by using nitro flushing and technologies like that. Um, we're heavily located on the northeast, so for our shipping from New York is not a logistical challenge whatsoever. We partnered with our food service supplier actually to sort of outsource our supply chain, which has been terrific, and we're grateful for it. But as we expand and if we grow substantially on the West Coast, then looking to roast there or roast sort of further in the middle of the country could make economic sense. But there's certainly a lot of scale advantages by centralizing everything in one facility that you're able to reap.
Now, you mentioned vertical integration, which I think a lot of brands, as they're building, especially fast casual concepts, we've seen this with Sweet Green, which is probably one of the poster children of fast casual, who have essentially kind of changed the model of how production is done within their own system around salads and the sourcing of that. How does vertical integration work with you? Do you guys actually go down and get the farmers in the coffee markets themselves in South America or abroad? What's the process that you guys dive into there?
We have fantastic relationships with our coffee farmers, primarily in Colombia and Brazil. We have very high standards and accreditations as it relates to direct sourcing and also being RFA approved. We buy our coffee team, go to South America a couple of times a year and buy our grain and work with the team. And we're lucky that we have long-standing relationships now for a number of years. And we have that real transparency. So the relationship is pretty seamless, and certainly it's very important to us. It's very important to know that the farmers are generating a sustainable amount of income and are running a sustainable operation that's not only good for their own communities but certainly for the environment. And when it lands, and we then store the grain and also partner with groups to store the grain, and then it's shipped to our roastery, and we roast on demand and pack and fill there. So for us, we're lucky that we have a product. Bluestone is a fast casual premium sort of hospitality brand, but we also have this product business because coffee is obviously the second most consumed beverage in the world. It's consumed everywhere, and the use cases are endless. So we're very fortunate to have these two sides. It does add a little bit of complexity in the business, but for us, coffee is part of our DNA, and it's the thing that we did from day one. So it is quite natural, and I'm very glad that we've made these investments because it's given us flexibility to focus more on at home and CPG when something like this emerges. Hopefully it never happens again, but we've at least been able to keep certain revenue streams quite robust and in fact growing at multitudes that we probably never thought were possible in the short run.
Yeah, I can imagine with direct to consumer, especially when you guys started the subscription model. How long ago was that, and was it something you ramped up, or were you getting demand from your guests that you thought, hey, this is a good way to go?
Yeah, we launched subscription about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, and I think it got off to a bit of a slow run. There's certainly been some groups in the industry that have pushed it forward and driven that awareness around getting coffee delivered to home. And I think also for Bluestone, we had so many of our locals, which are customers, really love the experience of going to their local Bluestone. They love the human connection and recognition, and they weren't probably that interested in making a lot of coffee at home. And if they couldn't replicate the Bluestone Lane taste profile, then they'd probably prefer to not do it. But that has changed with COVID, with obviously people not heading into their office or work as frequently. They're spending a lot more time just simply at home under sort of government requirement. So for us, like, we really did ramp up subscription, and one way that we feel really excited about our program is the fact that we have a complete omni-channel loyalty program. So if you spend with us via subscription, you are rewarded in the program just as if you order in one of our stores, order ahead or dine with us. And I think that omni-channel approach is really exciting. And then furthermore, on the subscription side, if you subscribe to Bluestone Lane, we actually provide you free coffee for redemption in the store. So we have that transparent digital first relationship, and it's all done through our app, done through one ecosystem. And we're seeing incredible NPS and response as it relates to that. So if you order a bag of beans at home each week, you get a free flat white, and we're seeing not only a great return for the business, but terrific engagement from our customers.
Yeah, there's another company that does a really good job at cross integration like that. It's called Amazon. Whether you look at Amazon Prime, and then you get all the additional benefits of Prime, free shipping. You also get Prime Media, and it's all integrated into one. So I think that's a brilliant approach. I haven't seen many operators really go to that level where they're kind of crossing over the boundaries of direct to consumer and especially retail, and even now with dine-in or if you're ordering food. So I think that's an excellent model to go. Let's talk about the fast casual component of Bluestone Lane. I discovered your brand early this year. Was the first time I really started looking at you guys a lot more. We keep a huge roster of all the emerging brands. You guys started percolating up. What do you feel, because most of what we track, at least here on Foodable Labs, is usually consumer data. And it's usually consumer data starts to talk about a brand enough that it garners attention from our ranking system. You guys, of course, fell into that. What do you feel is driving that with a very competitive landscape with companies like Starbucks kind of dominating the scene? Why do you think companies like yourself, I mean, we've seen other ones out there. If you go over to the West Coast, you've got companies like 4 Barrel that have done just great jobs. What do you attribute that success to from the consumer side of things?
Well, I actually think in the sort of top echelon, the premium specialty space, there's tremendous growth, and there's really not that much competition. There's a number of independents that have 1 or 2 stores, which we think is absolutely fantastic because growing the market, it's educating the constituency. For us, our core customer is aged between 18 and 35, 18 and 40. We're not really focused on someone who's not interested in the artisan sort of taste profile and the story behind premium coffee, and also really committed to eating healthy food that's
right.
Not processed and not high in sugar or fat, that's more raw. And for us and with our core customer, they're looking for a premium offering. They're looking for something that's also focused heavily on service and making them feel special, and we offer an atmospheric experiential experience. So, I think that there's just absolutely extraordinary white space. It's a massive addressable market, coffee, obviously over 50 billion. And really in what we do, premium coffee and healthy food, it's really nobody. I think we are the leading brand, and we've only got just over 50 stores. So I think it does make us feel really excited, and the feedback that we've got from our customers over this sort of the first 6-7 years since we've launched has been a sense of real validation and optimism that despite the hiccup and having a heavily urban real estate model, which is certainly precarious given COVID-19, that the growth upside is just extraordinary. So we're very
Yeah.
excited, and now we're looking to enter the suburban markets, and we're looking to enter new tier, sort of maybe the emerging tier 2 markets. And because we do have that food program in addition to premium coffee, we feel really confident about the unit volumes that we can generate, which has been sort of robustly complemented by this off-premise delivery business, which
Right.
pre-COVID was only making up 5% of our total sales, which has now moved to a floor of 30, anywhere from 30 to 40%. So we're
Wow.
very lucky, and I think it's because, again, our food program is so broad and of high quality that's working.
Yeah. Well, I think you hit the market on the head, and that is the crossover between really good quality coffee and an innovative menu, because that's usually the downfall, as you had mentioned, of a lot of these artisan brands is, with the exception of maybe Craftsman and Wolves in, I don't know if you've ever been to that location in San Francisco, but they have a chef that essentially drives a very high-end pastry concept and brand, but he's got a really good coffee concept with it. Where he kind of falls is the fact that they don't offer in-depth menu items, even though as a pastry shop it's absolutely phenomenal. But I think the fact that you guys are kind of crossing over into other culinary aspects in the fast casual category, it gives you a really interesting and unique advantage in the marketplace. You mentioned growth, and this is something that we continue to see kind of breaking down in the urbanized markets. A lot of fast casuals who have grown heavily in the urban centers are now very concerned with 2021 being a very slow year of people going back to work in major cities. The work from home situation has catapulted many companies into even reconsidering whether or not they'd even reopen offices in some of these cities. So with that kind of scenario happening, in the workforce landscape across the country, you had mentioned suburban and alternative markets. Is that something you guys feel like this is just maybe a new track that we as Bluestone Lane must go, and we have to kind of not necessarily abandon, but really restructure where our growth is going to occur?
Absolutely. I think it's a necessity for us to look at
Yeah.
some of the commuter rings and where our customers are now working, and where they plan to work, and where they're now living. So we have to be agile and flexible.
Yeah.
We have the majority of our stores in Manhattan and Washington, D.C., and we've seen from the data that a lot of people are moving to the surrounding suburban areas, and they're commuting in.
Sure.
And I'd imagine next year it's going to be a part-time work from home, part-time office scenario, and we need to have a business model that can adapt to these changing sort of preferences, and just where our customers now spending the majority of their time. So we've been heavily focused on that, but it certainly takes time, and it also takes time if you're trying to plug some holes in your urban business,
Oh, yeah.
because there is very limited demand, and certain markets are going to rebound more strongly than others. I do believe New York is going to rebound pretty strongly, because it's just a world-class draw card. There's always young people wanting to live in New York, and in many cases right now it's more affordable and cheaper to do so than it's probably been in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
But there's other cities where I'm less confident in the short run. San Francisco, for example, given the nature of who the anchor tenants, the big office anchor tenants are, and the policies that they've really adopted around work from home and flexible working, and just the nature of technology, I think it's going to be a slower comeback to a new normal. So we just
That's a
have
good
to
point.
be flexible and have to work with our landlords, because I think that's the biggest challenge that operators like us have, is like, how do you deal with your fixed cost base when there's no demand? And that's a really challenging spot. But we're lucky that the majority of landlords have been patient and flexible, and they see us as a world-class amenity, a real branded amenity, and actually part of the solution to get workers back to their office towers. So there has to be an understanding there, and we'll continue to work with them, and hopefully that the vaccine and the tailwinds behind that really do encourage people to get back into these urban centres. But if not, all of our focus right now is on suburban markets and tier 2 markets, which maybe we thought we would access in 2-3 years, that have now come to the forefront. And you're seeing that with the explosion in just word of mouth around Austin. And Austin was already a hot city, but now it's just sort of on fire. It's probably the leading city in the US from all reports. So it's quite interesting.
That is my hometown, and I hear so many things. And it's always been kind of the edgy city that's always kind of been a draw for some of the bigger companies. But Austin now is seeing a lot of migration from California, both business and individuals. And then obviously you have the big high-profile guys like Musk, who's opening another gigafactory there in Texas. Obviously, you deal with the Cybertruck. Then you get someone like Joe Rogan in the media space who moves there. There's a lot of activity that I think has put a bullseye on the back of Austin, both in a good way and a bad way. You're going to deal with some overpopulation, rents rising, real estate very difficult to get, all those kind of things. But there are some really good surrounding areas within Austin you should look at that are great spots for a brand like Bluestone Lane. All right, so last question for you, and that is, here on this show we really dive into kind of the trends moving forward. And a lot of people kind of identified off-premise takeout, delivery over the past couple of years as being something that is really going to accelerate. Your thoughts on where you think the market is going for fast casual operators who are somewhat nimble? What should they be looking to grow their brands in the next few years?
It's a really interesting question, because I guess we're all trying to work out whether the amount of off-premise that we're doing right now is sustainable.
Right.
And is it a function of government restrictions? And where I am right now in California, LA County's just announced that there's no outdoor there's
dining.
been no indoor dining, but there's no outdoor dining. So is off-premise, at the levels we've got now, just heavily elevated, or if it's a baseline? I'm probably sort of more of a believer in the latter, that it's going to be a baseline, but it does depend a lot on the day part. I really see probably dinner more than anything. It's the largest category in delivery. I can see that continuing to accelerate, and I think the trend there is that people are just going to substitute out cooking from home. That getting food delivered is going to be cheaper, and also more importantly, just the breadth and quality is going to increase. It's going to move away from just maybe a QSR product to higher end and more sophisticated culinary offerings, and I think that could be an exciting thing. But it is certainly going to be more challenging for an operator, because the quality of profit margin on delivery is just substantially lower. But, I think for Bluestone, it's been a transformative change, as I referred to earlier. We were 5% delivery pre-COVID, and we got it to over 50% in April, and now our baseline's around 30 to 40%. But, we're really focused on the lunchtime day part. And what's interesting with a brand that leads with coffee is the fact that our food program is so substantive and high quality that we're able to access that channel. If we were just leading with coffee and pastries, I think delivery and off-premise is really tough. Order ahead will be really robust, but people love going out for their morning coffee. It's a daytime ritual. It's a sense of sort of purpose and human connection, and that's really important for us. So if we can continue to focus on that, but support with the lunch part, it could be exciting for the future.
I think you hit on something there, and that is the high quality that could be elevating, especially in the fast casual space, where we kind of get, it's 2-3 steps above fast food. It's maybe right at the level of casual dining, or getting close to, even in some cases, fine dining. But what you mentioned there, the cost of delivery, along with something that I hear more and more from operators, which is the concern around packaging. Because of the fact that you do have a much higher quality product. It's one thing to get a hamburger from McDonald's and get it home and it's kind of meh. But it's a different thing to get something that's super high quality, a lot more expensive, and get it home, and a package may not necessarily sustain it. So I think that's going to be a challenge for the industry, is to really get packaging zeroed in on, to be able to take advantage of what I think you're right on, and that is an expansion of day parts for fast casual and casual dining for sure. Hey, Nick, it's been great having you on.
Thank you so much.
Do you have something to add on that?
No, I think you're right. I don't think delivery is just this silver bullet for all operators. Right. I think that it's helped a lot bridge a catastrophic fall in revenue due to COVID, but I don't think it's just this new channel that's going to save everyone. And I think a lot of people really miss still dining and the quality of product when it comes on the right type of sort of crockery and the experience.
Totally.
So, I do think that we're going to continue to see growth in delivery, but I don't anticipate that, it's that restaurants are just going to suddenly be delivery only. I think it's always going to be.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Because it's good to hear that, because I do hear from both sides. I talk to so many different CEOs and brand leaders, and it's kind of about 50-50. People, some believe delivery could be the next major explosion in food domination for the industry, and then others like yourself think, nah, it's probably going to kind of balance off. Sure, it's probably going to uptick, have a nicer double-digit number, but it's not going to be something that takes over the business for sure. Listen, Nick, it's been great having you. I'm going to keep you on my speed dial list, so when we get topics that I think would be good for you,
anytime,
we'll definitely reach out. Thanks for stopping in today.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me.
All right. Be safe. All right, so all of you listening in over on our podcast side of Fast Casual Nation, make sure and subscribe. If you've discovered this over on Spotify, or maybe you've found it through your listening process over on iTunes and this show is recommended to you, the number one way we get feedback from audience is through you giving us feedback and ratings. So please do so on any one of those platforms, your most favorite. And also, if you have a great idea for the show, whether it's a brand leader, a solution, or just a trend that you feel that we should be covering, make sure and reach out to us at producer@foodabletv.com, and also hit me up on Twitter @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on Fast Casual Nation.